What's up, y'all? Both sides of the barricade. That is the stage and the audience. What that means, if you're just joining us on episode 8, is not only was and am a musician, but I also worked on, the tour side of working with bands, working with artists, and kind of getting a sense of what music did to people in the real transaction. And after 15 years almost, or right around, yeah, I left off with Mint Condition, episode 7, and episode 8. This is where I transition into very strict with my ear. I go into production mode. I mean, it's time to make music. It's time to make music better. So my ear started to listen for bands that were unsigned. In my world, I only dealt with signed acts, and that was just always the way it was. I knew people that were unsigned, but I worked with only acts that were signed to labels at the time. Back when labels sold CDs, basically. That one right there. So, in episode 8, I decided to tell you guys a little bit about the time I not tour managed, but toured with an unsigned band that I stumbled upon. And I'll tell you how I stumbled upon this band. I was going to see some friends play in Nashville at 3rd and Lindsley. This is the Lightning 100 Sunday night, if you're familiar with it. I went to go see Matrimony. Matrimony was a family band, brothers and sisters, and I think one husband. And the drummer was Jordan Hardy, the original drummer of Paper Tongues. And basically, I wasn't expecting this night to happen. This is usually how it works, right? I went to go see them play, and the band that opened for them blew me away. And, it is what it is, but that's how it started. I talked to the opening band that night, and I was just like, man, what do you guys deal, and what's up? And the leader told me, he's like, hey, we're just trying to get, more traction. We've got a few people looking at us and stuff like this. And we started talking, and he gave me the private link to his SoundCloud, and the rest is history, I think. I mean, the way it worked for me is I just started going through the tracks, and I landed on one track. I started playing it over and over and over and over and over. And I looked at my play count, and I was like a 10-to-1 ratio between this track and the rest of the songs. The rest of them, there were a lot that were good. This song was like hitting at that time, at that moment. And I believe the band got a write-up in a blog, and then a label with major distribution got a hold of them, an indie label with some tentacles, Mom and Pop Records. And this band was LL, if you're familiar, and the song that I kept playing was 40 Watt. And the band got signed. I wanted to produce a little more, so the lead singer Ben had asked me if I wanted to come mix on the road. So it was kind of good for me because I was able to mix the live band, 7-piece band, guitar, bass, keys, sax, trumpet, drums. I mean, this was a big band. We traveled in a van and a trailer. A very funny story about that is we were in New Orleans leaving to go to Baton Rouge, and if anyone's traveled I-10, you know that route. You know that long stretch of bridge that's there. And basically, someone was driving. Trying to see who was driving. I can't remember. But they felt something, and we stopped and looked, and we had a what's it called under there? A leaf spring that was cracked underneath the right rear part of the van. I guess rust had gotten to it and it had cracked, so there was like a wobble. So we're trying to hammer it back in, but basically I took over driving, And next thing you know, we're on this bridge still, and it just goes. The tire goes, basically. The leaf spring gives way and slices right into the tire laterally, and we have a flat tire that happened at like a 60-mile-an-hour speed, 15-passenger van carrying a trailer. As a driver, again, not really something that I tell everyone, not really something that I lead with, but as a professional driver, I have been in so many situations where, you just get used to having to react to things, and reacting to this was just another thing. I coasted us over into the shoulder, which was not much at all. Basically, what had to happen is the trailer, we ended up, I think, moving stuff into a vehicle. The van got put on a tow truck. We made it to Baton Rouge, and I called a friend who knew friends, and basically third party, someone, let us crash at their place. A musician, of course, but just knowing people, just networked. That's what helps about the road. That's what really helps you keep going without all the hiccups that everyone else is running into at times. Let's see. LL, 40 watt, mom and pop. We traveled all over the U.S. I believe it was 2015. I can't tell you all the cities we went to, but we were in as far west as New Mexico and as far east as Pennsylvania, maybe even New York. Of course, New York. We played Brooklyn somewhere. And we played Manhattan. Pianos, probably. Anyhow, so I was mixing, and the story goes, I wasn't tour managing. Again, I had nothing to do with the business of the band. I tried, I guess, to put input into the record. I was told that the record was finished, so basically there was no changes going to happen to the record, and it is what it is. I do believe that once they got signed, the record got not shelved, but it sat for longer than they expected, and basically other songs were put on it. I'm not sure what mixes were done to it, but it was changed, and that's really how the industry goes. So I didn't get to change it, but somebody changed it to the point to where, the band, I guess, didn't re-sign or whatever happened after album cycle. This is what happens. Bands you don't hear of, that don't hit, that don't lock in, with that, the label just lets them go, and that's pretty much it. I mean, no label's sitting and developing bands anymore. No one's spending time because they don't know what to do with the artists. They're not musical inside of labels. They don't know how to guide an artist or put them with someone musical. It's just not their thing anymore. That power and influence has shifted to people that work in live music, that are musical, that are able to translate to musicians. Okay, you want to reach an audience with your song. Why would you go to someone that sits in a studio and works for people that don't deal with the audience? That's the whole point in, when artists think that they've got somebody who mixed a record from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just because they mixed a pop record, does not guarantee they're going to get another one. In fact, it actually diminishes their chances of getting another one because one's hard enough to get. So you need to look forward as a musician where production's going, where engineering's going. Back in the day, the systems, the analog systems, did not change often. There was no software that was constantly being updated. There was no version this, version that, version 8. And there weren't many different competitors like there are now. I mean, count the DAWs. There's tons. And there's different ways to use them. There's video ways, there's audio ways. It's just a whole new world. And engineers are having to stay current. And I respect engineers for knowing how to capture the sounds because that is extremely important going forward. But there is a point where you cannot consider yourself a producer if you don't know what sounds to capture. If you want to reach an audience, you want to work with the audience. You want that audience to respond to songs, and you want to be able to visually, audibly, in every sense possible, Use your gut instinct in that transaction of the audience and the music at the closest engagement possible. Okay, the further away you are from that information, the more spurious the results, meaning the more skewed the results, the more noise you will hear or you will get. The signal you want is close, and you want to be close. So transitioning into a producer in 2015 was something that I knew I was always going to do. I was producing music with Brian Jr. in 2000, 2001. We got tracks none of y'all have heard. Stuff that we did when I was 21, he was 11, 22, he was 12. He was just fooling around with Fruity Loops and Reason, and I had no clue what I was doing other than playing a set of keys. So fast forward to now, my production years brought me 10 to 15 years of traveling on the road with bands that have hits, bands that were signed. Now I'm with a band that is unsigned, about to be signed, is getting signed, but doesn't want to change the record, and that's fine. Artists live and die by their own sword every day. I'm one, but I also respect when I'm being told something that makes sense. And, shout out to that band. After the tour, what good am I? I don't tour anymore. I don't just assist on the road. This isn't something that, I even did out there other than take control of the wheel that day and, whatever happened, happened. We all got out alive. So when you want to look for a reason to get signed with a label, think about the structure of the label. Think about their deals. If it's a 360 deal, you got to be careful, right? So if they're going to take money from your touring, then what are they giving you with touring? Is the tour support enough? Is it development of live shows? Are they expecting you to already be live and great? And then again, who's able to judge that and decipher what's live and great? Someone who doesn't go to live shows, someone who got a job because of a college degree, but no personal relationship or experience with music. This is the state we're coming to today, and in 2011 I saw it, and in 2015 I made a move to get myself ahead of the curve. And here we are, 2020. So another 5 years have passed. I'm looking at almost 10 to 15 years pushing a model or a new system for music. And I love taking on challenges. I used to surf when I was a kid. Let that wave hit me. Like, I just want to get the next one. So when something knocks you down, when something knocks you over, that just means there's another thing that's going to try and knock you over. So all it does is make you stronger. All it does is build your confidence, is build your reason for pursuing your dream and or goal and or ambition and or whatever you want to call it. We can decipher words. I don't like ambition. I don't like goals. Ambition is almost a made-up word, right? Because then you are going for something. And if you have a goal, then you have something you have to get. Both of those are kind of flawed in the sense or in logic making, because really what you're trying to do is capture on random experiences that just happen because you're in a position to optionalize that that given moment, or to ratchet up, to know to drop the bad and take the good. And there's been opportunities and offers to me when I was not touring and I didn't want a tour that I didn't take. There's been opportunities that when I was touring, other people wanted me that I didn't take. And everything just kind of goes. These aren't decisions that I pre-planned. There is no structure, schematic, design for working in the music industry. So when they begin to hire from that, when they begin to hire curriculum-based talent, people that are good at taking tests, people that are good at regurgitating someone else's thought and someone else's work, that kind of lets you think that the label is stuck in catalog mode and they're not interested in developing. And if they're developed and they're not developing, who's developing the music for America to disseminate? It's the one thing we don't import. You want to talk about make products in the USA? Do other countries make our music? They buy our music. We export music like it's water, and we don't import it. So In 2015, I decided, okay, after working with this band, I'm going to rethink what I'm going for in music, reposition myself, close up my tour management business completely. The cool thing about it is now that I'm playing music, all these folks that I toured in music with, they're not really sure what to think, but some of them are just like, man, you got to keep doing what you're doing, because they didn't know that I was doing this before I toured. And here I am. So thanks for hanging out, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with both sides of the barricade. This has been episode 8, a little about touring and a little about production and a little about how this industry is moving more towards live interaction. If you can pick up Spotify and choose any song to play and pause it and rewind, and you have interactive capabilities with recordings for the first time ever, okay, live isn't becoming recording, recording is becoming live. The record is promo for the show. Put it out there so people come and buy your ticket that keeps getting more and more expensive. Peace.